I'm here today with Dr. Shannon Curtis, a fellow naturopathic physician. And Shannon, I want to hear from you because I love what you do. I want to
Mm.
hear from you. One, why did you choose to become a naturopathic physician, right? We've all had these kind of unique entry points into the profession. From there, I'm curious why you started working with women's hormones and then how this concept around treating acne and then holistically evolved. So I'm going to give you the floor and let you tell us how you
Well,
got here.
thank you, Dawn. Such a pleasure to be here. It is so wonderful to connect with a like-minded naturopathic doctor. So my origin story, I feel like we all go onto the path and serve our clients in the way that we needed to be served when we were dealing with our own health struggles. And so my path really started way back in my teens when I got on the birth control pill. I don't know about you, but I had a terrible experience on, excuse me, the birth control pill. It really messed with my system, made me depressed, made me have weight gain. And so as I was on medications for those and eventually decided, what am I doing? I'm on all of these medications. I'm on the pill. Let me get off of these things. So actually, with the help of a naturopathic doctor, I was able to taper off of those and I felt free. I was like, wow, I have tools in my toolbox to help support me through this. But then 3 months after stopping the birth control pill, I broke out face full, body full of cystic acne, totally unexpected. I'd had clear skin before, and I had no idea that the two were related. Like I put the pieces together, but I had no idea that was a possibility. And I was like scrambling to figure out how to heal my skin, how to heal my hormones after going off of the pill. And eventually I did. It took me 4 years. It doesn't have to take that long, but for me, it took me that amount of time. I didn't get my period for 2 years after the pill. But it was quite the journey. And I realized I had some guidance through it with a great naturopathic doctor. She wasn't as well versed in what I was going through as I am now. So I had to kind of figure out a lot for myself. And throughout that journey, I realized there's so many women out there who are struggling with their hormones on and off the pill, who maybe want alternatives or want to get off and start a family, but then they get off and realize, oh my gosh, I have all these symptoms. And then women who are dealing with acne, regardless of whether or not they were on the pill, that are just stuck in acne, constant breakouts. And so I realized I have a story to share. That was my path too. And let me guide you through this so it's easier and it doesn't have to take you the many years it took me to heal.
Yeah, wow, it's so amazing. And I actually did have, I think, a really similar entry point. I was put on the pill when I was 14 or 15 because of heavy, frequent periods, tons of mood swings, which everyone around me told me was just being a teenager.
Right?
And I didn't know any better. So I just thought I was anxious. I thought I was depressed. I thought I was all of this, sort of emotional turmoil. It wasn't until my early 20s when I was working for a company and my insurance changed. So I changed the pill.
Oh,
I
yeah.
cried for 3 weeks straight. I, did not want to be touched. I was like, "Oh, wow, how interesting. I'm on birth control. My boyfriend can't come anywhere close to me." Like, there's a secondary mechanism for controlling
I know,
hormones,
right?
and I gained weight, and I said, "Oh, I have to stop this." I was realizing, like, I eat organic food and then I take a pill. This
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense, and Shannon, literally, I stopped, and, the fortunate part for me was that within 2 weeks, it was like the clouds parted, and I
Mhm.
realized, "Oh my gosh, I'm not depressed. I am not emotionally erratic." That was a side effect, and no one ever told me it was a side effect. I literally felt lied to
Mm.
out of those years, and it was a big part of inspiring the pathway forward. So I don't think we're alone.
Or I don't think we are either. I mean, the studies show that teenagers, especially who go on the pill, adolescent girls go on the pill and they have such higher rates of anxiety and depression. And that study, like it's just that's not part of the conversation when a girl is handed the pill of like, let's see how you respond to this. If your moods change, like that might not be for you.
Yeah,
Because that was the
absolutely.
same for me, going down that rabbit hole of psychotropic medications that I actually never needed. And so, wow. Well, my heart goes out to you. It is a very familiar story, and I know that our story is widely held by lots of women out there.
And for you, 4 years, like, I commend the persistence. Really. But tell me, Shannon, how did you develop this idea of holistic acne care, right? Like I hear in our world, right? I would say, broadly speaking, looking at liver function, detoxification, hormones, like that might not be unique from the naturopathic lens. I think in the common vernacular, it's like, wait, what? But you go so much deeper. I have heard you express, that confidence
Mm.
and, just that sense of self plays such a role in how the skin expresses. And I would love to hear how that aspect of holistic acne care emerged for you.
Ooh, this is such a juicy topic. Well, my perspective from a holistic perspective, it's like by the time something gets to the skin, it's gotten to the surface. The body's really trying to move things out. And so there are many layers that are
Mm.
now needing to be addressed. And I call it like layers of the onion. So the skin is the outer layer. We want to heal the skin externally, but we want to peel back those layers of the onion, so to speak, to get to the real root of it. And all these things are all playing a role, peeling back your gut function, peeling back your hormones, peeling back your detoxification. But at the root of it is really your nervous system, how you feel. Your skin is such a reflection of the state of your nervous system, right? Like you get embarrassed, your cheeks flush. You get nervous, you start to sweat. Your skin is showing you moment by moment how you're feeling internally. And when it comes down to it, that root, that core of the onion really is that nervous system piece, how you feel in your body. And that includes also the thoughts and the emotions that you're thinking. And so I had this critical turning point in my own acne healing journey where I was struggling with breakouts every single day, literally nonstop. And I had this insight that I was like, I'm just going to not use anything on my face. I'm going to cover up my mirrors. I'm not even going to look at my skin. I spent hours picking my skin. So I covered my mirrors with pictures of clear skin and all my affirmations and put tapestries over my other, mirrors in the house. And I didn't do my skincare. And I was like, I just don't want to think about my skin in this way. And I keep obsessing over it. And I realized that with those 30 days, of course, no skincare allowed my skin barrier a chance to reset and heal, but it was deeper than that. I stopped looking at myself in the mirror and saying all these really nasty stuff to myself. So I noticed my self-talk got better throughout the day. I wasn't picking my skin as much, which is literally like picking at yourself, right? And I noticed that I was starting to tap more into those affirmations and just really trust that my skin was healing. And 30 days later, I took down the tapestries, the affirmations, and my skin was clearer. My skin was clearer. I had broken this picking cycle. I had changed my relationship with the mirror, and I had started speaking kinder to myself and trusting that my skin would heal. I would sit there and touch one part of my face that was clear where there were breakouts everywhere else and just be like, if this part of my skin can clear, my whole face can clear. And just started giving myself a lot of love and compassion because it's so hard when your symptoms are just showing up for everyone else to see. But really, from a holistic perspective, in my experience, the acne are just these inner wounds that are desiring to be expressed. They are just these inner wounds. And sure, yeah, inner physical wounds too. Your gut might be disrupted, your metabolism might be off, but these inner emotional wounds were, are you suppressing anger? Have your boundaries been trespassed? Are you experiencing a grief? Like, are you a type A perfectionist that's just picking on yourself all the time? Like, what does that feel like in your body? And your body wants to show you because it can't get your attention any other way. And I feel like acne is the ultimate, let's get your attention so that you can treat yourself with love and compassion. Because if you can't do that, you can't heal. The version of yourself who has clear skin is speaking kindly to herself, no matter what her skin is up to. And I feel like we just have to tap into that version of ourselves before we even clear our skin, because else, how are we going to get there? So that was my lesson. And it wasn't until I made that discovery that all of a sudden it was like exponentially my healing took off, and it made everything else easier. It didn't matter what I ate, didn't matter how I slept, da 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 da. Those things help. But until I did that critical piece, I wasn't getting to the root of the onion.
Wow. Okay, so you just said so much, and
I
that was amazing. So I want to slow this down a bit and
mm-hmm.
highlight some of the things that I heard you
Sure.
say. No, it's so great. You covered your mirrors, right?
I,
Some you covered with pictures of people with clear skin and
mhm.
affirmations. Others you just covered. with tapestries, and you committed to doing that for 30 days.
That's true.
Wow,
Yes.
what a leap of faith.
Love
So,
your reaction. It was kind of like the I am willing to do anything, and it seemed severe. It seemed like a lot, and I don't always recommend this to everybody, but I was at my wit's end.
yeah, absolutely. And then over that time, what you said, that either the combination of not looking at your face alone and or the affirmations and the pictures, what you noticed was that your self-talk improved,
Mhm.
right? You said that you stopped actually picking at your skin, which you noticed was like, I stopped picking at myself,
Yeah.
right? And then this other thing that you said, what was so beautiful is that acne is a reflection of inner wounds. It's like the physical external manifestation of this internal place, either the irritation or a lack of boundaries or something that's hurting on the inside, expressing itself almost with the request, right? Of like, please pay attention to me. And you also mentioned like acne is an excellent way to get someone's attention.
Oh,
You know,
oh,
I find that with the weight world. It's like people and hair loss. You know, people can put up with a whole lot. And then the number on the scale changes or they start losing their hair and all of a sudden they're like, stop the truck, help. We've got to do something. Another person in this series, her name's Susan Stone, and she's an energy healer. One of the things she talks about is this idea that illness is the path to perfection, right? Simply because it is this revelation of where there is disharmony in the system, right? Calling us back in, to that right relationship
mhm.
itself, right? And it sounds like that's what you experienced. Did I miss any of these critical steps?
Those were beautiful. That absolutely, all of those are so important. Every symptom that our body gives us, as you know, as a naturopathic doctor, is a sign that our body's using to communicate to us a message. And in my experience, every single physical symptom, 100%, no matter how much we resist it, deny it, say it isn't so, has a mental emotional correspondence, you know? No matter what we feel about that, it is true that, and then with acne, it really truly is this disconnect from yourself, these inner wounds of feeling like, the core wound, the core humanity wound of not feeling enough, not feeling good enough in your skin, not trusting your worth and your inner beauty just by merely existing.
Shannon, how do your patients and clients, right? I think you work with some people across state lines too. How do they respond when you first tell them that covering the mirror might be part of the healing process and that it ultimately is about the inner work? I mean, not to say, like I said before, right? Of course, support your digestion, support your liver,
Mhm.
use natural products. And all of that is superficial until you do this inner healing. How do people react to hearing you say that?
I get two camps. I feel like the third camp wouldn't work with me. The people that don't believe in that at all wouldn't be the type to come and work with me. But I get two camps. I get people that go all in, that are like, absolutely, I want to believe in that this is so critical to my healing. I'm going to do this inner work. And hands down, those are the people that clear their skin within 1 to 2 months. Like, those are the people that get results so much faster. It's the people that are in this kind of limbo camp of like, I want to believe that, like I do, and I want to do that work, but I haven't committed to it. I haven't made the time for it. I am so hyper focused on, doing these detoxification practices or taking my GI support supplements and having the supplements fix me rather than I heal myself. There's nothing that needs to be fixed. I heal myself and I get to take charge and use all these other things as messages and help along the way. But ultimately, it's what I'm doing and what's going on between these two ears right here that makes the biggest difference in how I feel right here. And like I said, those two camps, the people that run with it are the ones that get better quicker. The people that struggle through just persistent breakouts despite doing quote unquote all the right things, they're not doing the core work, that they're not committed to it and buying into it. And that can be kind of challenging. You know, you have to really work through that resistance. Why is there resistance to this? Why are you resistant to looking at yourself and offering yourself this type of compassion, you know?
Okay, so I have what might be considered a fairly controversial opinion to express, and I would love nothing more than your honest opinion of this. So, one of the places in which I feel conflicted about the practice of medicine is that
Mhm.
I think it can create and sustain a disempowering relationship between, either the clinician and the patient or even the system and the patient. I feel like in the conventional world, the message is be afraid of your body. So we suppress the pain and the symptom, we use the steroid, we treat the headache. There isn't this symptom is signal perspective. But even in the naturopathic world, I sometimes find that we have simply traded one thing to be afraid of for the other. Now it's be afraid of the toxin, be afraid of the thing you eat, be afraid of, the mold or whatever the thing is. But we haven't actually told people that it's okay to trust their bodies and to not be afraid.
Mhm.
And even though you haven't used those words, I hear some of that in what you're saying. And so I'm just curious what your thoughts are on this paradigm shift that goes from, I can't trust, I am afraid, right? And I don't hear a lot of people articulate it as fear.
Mhm.
They often see it as proactive. I'm doing the cleanse, I'm doing the fast, I'm doing, but underneath it all is a very disempowered relationship. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I couldn't agree more. I mean, we set it up that way in the conventional system, right? You go see your doctor with the white coat, they tell you what to do, you take it, and you're better, right? Quote unquote, right? Are you really? But we have this system where you go to the expert and they tell you what to do. We never got, I heard this analogy the other day, and it's so true. People know more about cars than their own bodies because we have a car manual. You can look it up. They know more about their phones, how their phones work, than their own body works.
Mhm.
And because we weren't taught these things, we weren't taught what it is to, like, what our bodies actually need to be attuned to nature and attuned to a healthy environment and what it takes to actually be healthy. So we outsource that and disempower ourselves by going and seeking experts, which we all need guidance. We all could use a coach, but at the same time, our bodies are giving us all the message. We're the only one in our body, and our bodies are giving us all the messengers that we need to be able to listen to and take that into action. And I think often, especially in the naturopathic world, we have, transitioned away from this conventional model, but at the same time, instead of, you know, uh, viruses and bacteria and like all these, diseases being the problem, it's like, okay, well, it's toxins, it's Lyme, it's parasites, it's mold. And like, let's go after those things in the same way. And I understand people get better from those practices. There's a time and place if somebody is very sick to take some of the load off the body, but ultimately it's not those things doing the healing, it's the body going in and cleaning up and clearing things out. And I also have this slightly maybe controversial opinion too, that those things are actually serving us a purpose, that they're there for a reason. They're part of the cleanup crew. They're there to help our bodies. Our body is trying to adapt to a stressor and it's adapting to the stress in the best way it knows how. Our body is so intelligent. It's not giving you symptoms to make you hate it, to be doing anything wrong. I think we look at symptoms in our body as, my body's broken for giving me acne. There's something I need to fix, that my body's not doing. No, your body's doing exactly what it needs to be doing. What is your body trying to tell you by doing this thing? It's trying to adapt to some sort of stressor. And once that obstacle is removed, once it gets the nourishment it needs, which often comes, I'm tapping my chest, my heart straight from here,
Yeah.
and everything starts to, like a river flows downstream. Everything flows downstream. You stop going upstream, you go downstream, and it just becomes, that's what healing is. It's just redirecting your kayak downstream and, removing the boulders in your way.
And you talked about the skin being a reflection of the nervous system,
Mhm.
right? Which I think really speaks to resilience. I when I was in school, I did a lot of homeopathy, and I used to think of these sort of three pillars. There's what comes into our system as one pillar, there's what we're able to clear from our system as another pillar, and then there's this sort of much more amorphous pillar of like, what are we resilient to? What can we tolerate?
Mhm.
When I did these environmental medicine shifts, I was sometimes shocked to see that the person who had migraines and pain and chronic fatigue, like we would do their tox profile and it was substantially smaller than the person who was like, I'm fine. And we did a tox screen on them. It was like all of their levels were sky high. And it was like, what's happening here? Right. There's this foundation of resilience that I think you're speaking to that is expressed through the skin. And I have to imagine, Shannon, that it's expressed in so many areas of health and vitality. So I'm curious what else you observe when you're taking people through this journey of self-discovery and kind of personal reclamation.
Mhm.
What are the beneficial side effects, right? What do you see in their energy? What do you see in their relationships? What do you see in their weight? Even I'm curious, like as that confidence changes, do you see their careers or financial picture shift? Like, tell us what happens.
Well, because like I mentioned earlier, you're stepping into that version of yourself, right? The version of yourself who has whatever it is you want, right? Clear skin, more energy, whatever other symptoms you're dealing with, that version of yourself isn't experiencing those. Well, what it takes to get to that version of yourself is two things. It's shedding and releasing things you no longer need, whether that's emotional baggage that you're carrying, limiting self-talk, practices, habits in your life that don't serve you any longer. You're releasing and shedding those and implementing the things that do serve you moving forward. Like, how does that version of yourself with clear skin or more energy, how does she act? What does she do? How does she talk? Even how does she dress? How does she show up in the world? What are her habits like? What is she saying to herself? What time does she go to bed? What time does she wake up? And so when we step into that version of ourselves who feels really confident, and we feel confident enough to make these changes that are healthy for us, we become a different person. We start to, I'll use the word manifest because I definitely believe in manifestation, but we're all creators. We're creating the life we want. And so when you develop these this connection to your heart where you're really just allowing yourself to, I see my worth, I am beautiful. I recognize that even though sometimes I'm frustrated with my skin, my body's healing more and more every day. I deserve my love and compassion. And you step into that version of yourself, you're making different decisions, you're doing different things, you're going to feel differently. And it might not be right away, but it'll be very quickly. It'll happen quicker than you think. And so you notice, yeah, sometimes your relationships change, they get better. The ability, your how you show up in life, how you show up at work changes. All your other symptoms start to improve. So when you really get to that core of the onion, when you really start to address the nervous system and and when I say nervous system, like how you're feeling on a day-to-day basis, how your brain and your heart align, this heart-brain coherence, right? What you're saying, is it actually in truth with what your heart knows to be true? You step into a whole different version of yourself, and anything is possible with that version. It's actually whatever you want is possible.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Thank you for that. How do you support women in creating communities that facilitate some of this change, right? And so for background, I guess what has me ask this question is that I find that when people first start either changing their diet or their habits in ways that would facilitate health,
Mhm.
they're confronted by the fact that their entire community supported a previous way of being. Like if
Mhm.
all of my friends got together to drink beer and have pizza, and then I stopped drinking beer and having pizza for a period of time, then loneliness can be the thing that I confront. On the more emotional plane, if I'm stepping out of excuses, blame, and victim consciousness, but I had a circle of friends that bonded over commiseration,
Mhm.
then sort of finding a new place for myself can be a big step in the journey, right? Because we do need community. I think we need community to continue the path. And so how do you support women in creating new communities, finding new communities? Like how do you interface with that piece?
There is a big community in my online program, the Naturally Radiant Skin program, where my clients come to work with me one-on-one to help clear their skin. But then there's also this element of, being in calls and being in community with other women who are dealing with the exact same thing, right? I remember when I had acne, I felt so alone. I felt like I went out into the world and everyone else, they probably didn't, but in my mind they did. They all had flawless skin. And I was like, I'm the only one in the world with acne. Course that's not true. You go online and you see, acne.org forums, you realize you're not alone. And, what I've realized with working with many women with acne is that they do feel alone, that they're the only one with acne. All of their friends are eating junk food, but that junk food breaks them out. Like they feel very isolated in that. And then as you heal, yes, there are dietary changes you need to make, lifestyle changes, which perhaps don't really align with a friend or community group that you're a part of. And so there's ways to still be involved in those friend and community groups while also, being able to be in your worth about what you need to do to be healthy. And absolutely, we need community for that. It's really hard to, it takes a lot of willpower, a lot of self-perseverance to go on the path purely by yourself, which is why we all really need a coach. We all really need guidance by someone that's walked the path before, and a community of people that are all that are all on that same path, doing it with you to lift you up and say, yeah, you got this. It's really important.
That's so great. Thank you for that. Um, I think about I'm so grateful for Stephen Porges and the idea of polyvagal theory, sort of coming forth into recognizing that we are our nervous systems, right? Nervous system health is health, but also that idea of co-regulation, I think is critical because, my whole life I sort of grew up with that message. No one said self-regulate, but that was the essence of the message, go over there until you stop crying, put a smile on your face no matter what you feel. And so I do think this normalization of the critical nature of healthy community as a part of vitality is, yeah, just important.
It's so important. It's one of my the foundations of health, we have as naturopathic doctors, we have our foundations of health. And one of them that I consider to be a key foundation of health is community, right? If we feel isolated, if we feel like we don't have people to connect with, if we feel like we don't have, the ability to share experiences and feel connected, right? Because this myth of separation that we're all individual beings and we don't impact one another, we need that community to remind us that we really are all interconnected. So that's beautiful, Dawn. I like that. I like that a lot. Very foundational.
Great. So Shannon, tell us how pleasure plays a role in this whole process of holistic acne care.
Oh, this is also another juicy topic. So I'll talk about two different things with this. And if I forget the second one, just remind me that I had a second one.
Fair.
but But the first one, so pleasure, like our skin is a sensing organ, right? Like our skin is a sensing organ. It really is. You feel, you touch, and it senses everything in our environment. And a lot of times we're giving the input of things that aren't as pleasurable, things that are really, and I say input by experiences that we're having. So things that bring us stress, things that bring us a lot of tension, interactions that don't really serve us. So we're dealing with a lot of things that aren't very pleasurable in our life and putting on the back burner things that really are pleasurable, things that really do bring us joy. We're really focused on our career. Maybe it's not a career that we feel really aligned with, but we're very focused on making money. So we put on the back burner things that bring us joy, like our being able to go on hikes, or we have, hobbies that we really enjoy. It's like, we'll get to those later, right? I'll get to my self-care later. I'll just stay up all night on my internet and type up whatever I need to type up. But that is really, really important to tap into your nervous system. Pleasure is a direct avenue to get there. And so to speak to the second point that I wanted to bring up, the first being that doing pleasurable things, being in your pleasure is such a critical part of nourishing your nervous system, and nourishing your nervous system is nourishing your skin. Likewise, being in your pleasure is being in your feminine. And what I have found with acne, especially, is that a lot of, and this is myself too, a lot of women with acne, you might not have actually high levels of androgens like testosterone. Often you do, but often there's higher androgenic activity even without being overtly high. And in a holistic perspective, what that relates to, in my mind, in my perspective, is being more tied into your masculine. You're not really tapping into your feminine. Your feminine hormones are all out of whack because you're giving all your attention and energy to your masculine essence. And a lot of these women are really go-getters, really hard in their career. Maybe they've been in relationships where, they didn't get to be in their feminine or felt like their feminine was, taken advantage of. And so now they're just trying to be in their protective masculine and type A, that kind of thing. And so there's this healing between the masculine and feminine that needs to happen in those with acne. It's all about that's balancing the hormones. You really just need to heal the masculine and feminine. And the best way to heal the feminine is to tap into pleasure, tap into your creative juices. Like what makes you feel good? Is it a spa day at home? Is it dressing up beautifully? Is it like it doesn't have to be vain. Is it doing your hair and your makeup if that feels good? And if it doesn't feel good and you just like the bare face and you love just, soaking up, whatever it is to you, whatever it is to you, there's so many ways to feel pleasure and it's different for everyone. But that is the direct line to your feminine and the direct line to your nervous system. And both of those are key for healing acne.
Okay, this is like the most remarkable thing that I've ever heard. This idea that healing the skin requires like this rebalancing between the masculine and the feminine. This has been kind of the journey of the last few years of my life, sort of creating, I would say, safety within the feminine expression. Um, just grew up with achieve, 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 not safe to depend on someone else, make your own money, make your own way. And there was so much pride in that capacity for me. I think on some level, I had to achieve a certain degree of conventional success before I could consider surrendering, sort of exploring a feminine side. And one of the things that occurs to me, Shannon, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, is how do we create more safety in expressing beauty and femininity in a world that is still very kind of patriarchal? Like we still get messages around the importance of hiding some of those aspects of ourselves. And I see this play out in weight
Mm.
so deeply, where there have been times where I've supported a woman in losing weight and she feels great, steps out into the world, and maybe gets unwanted attention from a man and goes, whoa, it is not okay to be beautiful. And like, there's the rebound, right? Within 2 months, the weight is back on. It gives us this sense of invisibility, I think, in our culture. And what you're talking about, right, is like radiating, right? I mean, the skin, right? The skin is the organ in which we radiate. So, what are your thoughts on internally, whether maybe it's not internally sourced, but what are your thoughts on sourcing safety and permission to own our beauty, to own our feminine side, to radiate?
Yeah, that is such a wonderful question, and probably something that I've thought about in the back of my mind and haven't given so much direct attention to, but that's really important. It's hugely important because I think we all women, we struggle with this, right? We want to feel beautiful and we want to feel desired too. We want to feel beautiful, we want to feel desired, and some attention does feel good, and then we can often do get unwanted attention that trespasses our boundaries, our skin, right? Our trespasses our boundaries and makes us not feel safe in radiating the person that we are, makes us shrink back, become small, and not really feel like we can expand into the fullest version of our femininity. And so I will say that my personal practice has been expressing my femininity for myself. first, like recognizing that I'm doing it not for, like, not to feel desired by anyone else, but to feel beautiful in myself and feel really radiant in my own body. So first and foremost, it's for myself. And so whatever I do to make me feel a certain way, whatever I'm doing to make me feel feminine, to feel beautiful, to be in my pleasure and feel creative and in the flow, is purely for my enjoyment and my expansive nature. And then the second thing is having, and this is what's really beneficial about having a community of women, is then taking that into a community of women and appreciating beauty of other women. And so allowing yourself to be in a safe space with just other women where we are acknowledging the radiance that's coming from each other and really feeling safe to express our own. And so getting grounded in that. And then when you are out in the world amongst, men, amongst others who might be more apt to trespass your boundaries. I keep using that word. Then we need to have our resources to be able to understand that that is not us, that we don't need to take that on and shrink away from it, and be able to, if the time, if it feels safe to do so, to be able to affirm our boundaries and to be able to say no and to be able to communicate that that wasn't wanted. But it's hard because we've grown up being the good girl, right? Being the good girl, saying like, I'll do whatever you say, and not saying no when we really meant no. A lot of us grew up that way, and it's still very hard. So I think we have to have that safety and comfort within ourselves first, expand into it in ourselves, and then have a community of women to feel safe, and then slowly take that out into the world. But it takes time. I don't know, what are your thoughts on that? I'm curious what you think.
I mean, it's still it is a point of inquiry regularly, and I find that, like you said, having that, even if it's a small community, I think having a safe community of women, and honestly, when I think of a safe community of women, what I think of is this is a safe place for me to feel beautiful. Right? Because there are other communities of women in which I might step in where radiating evokes jealousy, competition, envy, and so it's just because it's a group of women doesn't make it inherently safe. So I think one of the things for us to recognize is that safe community is intentional, it's curated, and it's not as simple as gender or we look alike or, something like that. And yeah, I loved what you said about sourcing femininity for yourself first. Something that I got into about 2 years ago is dance. I grew up playing soccer. You said play, and I heard competition. Um, and it just, like my whole world, I could turn anything into a competition, and even competing with myself, like if I'd go for a run, it was like, was every mile faster than the one before? Was this run faster than the one yesterday? I could be in a yoga class and compete with myself, right? Like that was just sort of the nature. And so then for me to get into dance was something that I had no reference point for. So I wasn't able to compete. And it was really about embracing something awkward initially and then noticing the joy. So for me, dance at first, it was all kinds: African dance, belly dance, hip hop. I went to some pole classes, and oh my gosh, pole. It's like it was so fun. And I would walk around all day with the most ridiculous grin on my face, feeling like I have a secret that you don't know. Like, you don't know that I spent this morning spinning around a stripper pole, having the time of my life, right? But it was by me for me. And that was the initial step in the reclamation. And, as I have developed more trust in myself, more trust, actually, I mean, not more trust in my body, I think, to perceive when it is okay to radiate. And then there's also this trust to go, oh, this is the time to pull my energy back in. You spoke earlier about this idea that we were raised to outsource um, knowledge about our bodies, right? We turn it over to the people in the white coat. We turn it over to the people with the initials behind their names. And so it truly was a reclamation process for me to go, I have information that's coming from right here that is more important than any information that somebody else could tell me about my experience. And it was in the cultivation of that relationship that I think I began to have a sense of, yeah, just a more feminine expression in
Mhm.
life because I could trust me.
I love that. I love it. That is the essence, to be able to trust yourself and be in your body and in your own self-worth. That is the essence of healing. When you trust yourself, you trust your body. And I love that about the dance too. I recently got into dance and that has transformed. I mean, I was a dancer growing up, but for others, right? But now I'm dancing for myself, not competing. I'm dancing for myself. And gosh, it's so good. It feels so good. It feels like the highway to tapping into my femininity. I'm like, there I am. There
Yeah,
she is, ready to go.
absolutely. What is your favorite kind of dance, Shannon?
Oh, I've been really loving hip hop. Like I just love getting down and doing some twerking. Like it feels real good.
Yes. Twerking. Okay, so I learned about this thing. My son makes fun of me, but they're called twerkies, where you basically do burpees and then you twerk between sets instead of jumping. Best thing ever. Best thing ever. Okay, so as we begin to come to a close, I want to represent the central theme of this entire summit, which is the path to healing must be enjoyable. Otherwise, it's not sustainable because you cannot hate yourself into health and happiness. And you have demonstrated that so beautifully, the self-talk, the boundaries, the picking at. Is there anything else that you want to add to this conversation and leave our viewers with?
I love that so much. I want to reiterate what you said. The path to you can't hate yourself into the healing. The path to healing must be enjoyable. Absolutely. And that really what it is. It's really about loving yourself into healing. It's really about doing a little bit of an earthing investigation of these inner wounds. What are they trying to tell me? When did they come about? What does this mean for me? What do I say to myself? What are all these things pointing to? Unearthing those and then offering that kindness and compassion because it's served you this far. It's gotten you this far. It was for a reason. And then taking those things and really, kind of having like a little ceremony for them of like, I'm allowing this to let them go. And I'm stepping into my worth as I am right now. I'm allowing myself this grace to really become that version of myself and enjoy tapping into the version of myself that feels good about herself. Is it going to happen all the time? I think that's the critical piece too, to know that when we say these things, the unenjoyable part can be feeling like you're failing, feeling like you're not quite getting there. I say 51% of the time is all that matters. If you're just tipping the scales in favor of loving yourself, and the other 49% of the time you're messing it up, calling yourself names, going back into old habits, that's okay. The 51% of the time is the majority, and it'll keep becoming more and more of the majority the more attention you give it. So don't feel like you're failing and going off the path. It's just like meditation. You're always coming back to the breath. You're never going to get a meditation 100% perfect, and you're going to fall off the train multiple times. That happens on the path to healing. But the enjoyable part is coming back and being like, yes, I've got this.
Oh, that is so great. 51% is a majority. I can't think of anything more compassionate than that. So, Dr. Shannon Curtis, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us, your inspiration. This was delightful.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure to be here.